What's going on, everybody? Today we will be doing a Homelander build based off of the series The Boys. This build is going to contain a lot of fun to use incantations as well as interesting weapon combinations that have useful synergies with each other, mainly basing the build around a Madness Bleed combo. There are a lot of different weapon choices I had in mind, but to match Homelander's unique abilities, I had to go with some less powerful sources of damage, as going with other weapons wouldn't make as much sense. And when it came down to the actual looks of the build, it became a perfect fit. Before starting this build, make sure you have the following stats or closely match them to your liking, as the build can either be ranged, melee, or a hybrid of both. This build will cover a well-rounded hybrid so you can match as closely as possible to Homelander in the comics and in the show. Now that we have the basis of the stats covered, let's start the build off with the fists. There are many choices you can pick for the fists on this build, and I landed on the spiked ones. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the fists, so don't make fun of me. The spiked fist can be obtained at the following location sold by the isolated merchant for 4,000 runes, allowing for a great basis alongside the second pair for mix and matching Ashes of War for the build. The non-spiked version, which you will also need, can be most easily found by killing Gatekeeper Gostock in the Stormvale Castle after killing Godric. These fists are identical to the spiked ones, however they don't have the punchy power of bleed. Using these lavish leathers, you'll be able to add Ashes of War to them, granting complete control over the build type you want, as well as being able to buff them with greases and incantations. Using greases like poison will also allow you to do poison and bleed damage at the same time. Putting the spike fists as your main hand and regular ones as your secondary for main hand, you can set the affinity to heavy on both of them for the ability to add the aforementioned buffs. The Ashes of War I used for this build was Bloodhound Step on the spiked ones and Beast's Roar on the regular ones. Bloodhound Step can be obtained by killing the Knight's Cavalry after setting the time to night in Dragon Barrow Cave next to Lenny's Rise. This Ash of War proves for extreme movement potential the closest thing you can pretty much get to flight, a vital part to matching the speed of Homelander. The next Ash of War, Beast's Roar, can be obtained by handing 4 Death Roots into Malekith Garang. So here are 4 easy to access locations that can help you obtain these Death Roots quickly. This Ash of War is going to grant you a very useful scream attack that is cheesy but very good for PvP and dealing decent range damage. Once you have your spiked fists with Bloodhound Step, regular ones with Beast Scream, and affinity set to heavy on both of them, it's time to approach the offhand slot, the Madness Seal. This seal can be obtained after completing the questline of Hyetta, which will lock you to the Frenzied Flame ending. You can undo this, however, by completing Millicent's questline, but you will have to go to New Game Plus at least once. This is due to receiving Millicent's prosthesis later on in the video. Once you have completed the questline and received the Madness Seal, it's time to move on to the armor. Starting off, you will be using the Oslo chest piece drop by invading Oslo at the Mountaintop of Giants after completing the final contract in Volcano Manor. Maidens will flock to you at the sight of the shining silver spectacle of American heroism. The gloves and gauntlets part of this build can be obtained by killing one of the Crucible Knights. My personal go-to is the Tree Knight in Deeproot Depths. Equipping the Oslo chest piece, gloves, and gauntlets, you are ready to leave your helmet off to show the true psychotic, patriotic, nurturing nature of Homelander. Moving on, we will now go into the incantations part of the build, where you get to have fun with whatever you want to pick for Madness Watt. I personally go with a simplified version to keep it comic accurate, however you can stick with other incantations like Shabriri's Howl or Grail's Roar. This is for pure immersion of screaming at others. The first incantation, Frenzied Burst, can be located by killing the Teardrop Scarab in Liurnia of the Lakes south of the Church of Inhibition. An important note with this incantation is that you can charge it when firing, allowing for an additional 20% damage increase while also providing penetration and massive stamina damage to shields. The second incantation, Inescapable Frenzy, will allow you to pull a Madeline Stillwell on your enemies. This incantation can be found most easily while you're on your way to completing Hyetta's questline, but this does require Moog the Omen to be defeated. Head down the Cursed Parkour and you'll find this incantation sitting near the bottom. This incantation is more so just for fun, as it can only be used on named humanoid enemies and also has a couple bugs to it, but landing it can be extremely satisfying. The next incantation, Placidusax's Ruin, can be received after killing Dragon Lord Placidusax and Farumazula. This incantation will provide an extremely fun to use and effective ability, able to laser giant bosses like ulcerated tree spirits like Homelander wishes he lasered that crowd. The final incantations are defensive and buff incantations, starting with Bloodflame Blade. This fiery fiesta can be located in Liurnia of the Lakes dropped by the Teardrop Scarab behind Rose Emperor's Church. Providing a 0.40 incant scaling to Fire from Faith and dealing 40 bleed over the course of 2 seconds, this incantation is perfect when paired with fire abilities and talismans. Golden Vow can be found in the Corpse Den Shack after killing the invader in Mount Gelmir. This provides a plus 15% damage buff, which is 7.5% in PvP, and 10% damage negation, which is 5% damage in PvP, while lasting 80 seconds, providing a long-lasting buff that will hold off enemies until the end of your battles. It will prove for great importance for your PvP and PvE needs. The last incantation, Flame Grant Me Strength, can be located in Fort Gale and Caelid between 2 flamethrower enemies. This incantation provides a solid 20% physical damage buff, which is 15% in PvP, and 20% fire damage buff, which is 15% in PvP. This pairs well with Madness, Physical, and Fire. Coming up to the next part of this burning build is going to be the wondrous physic. The physic can be mixed and matched to your liking, but a staple I will always recommend for fire builds like this one is the Flame Shrouding Crack tier. This tier is received after killing the avatar located in Caelid and provides a 20% fire damage buff in PvE and 15% in PvP. This buff lasts 3 minutes and is overall one of the best buffs you can get with this build for combat. The second tier is completely fit to your liking, however I went with the Cerulean Hidden tier to save on mana when buffing an initial incantation use. This tier can be received by killing the Ulcerated Tree Spirit in Mount Gelmir and provides an amazing 15-second infinite mana use so you can blast non-stop without worry. With everything covered relating to buffing, incantations, weapon and armor, it's time to finalize the build so you can laser an entire crowd of people with Placidusax's Ruin and shoot lasers at innocent Jarburg citizens. When approaching the talismans, it's important to note that in order to complete the build, you will have to take Millicent's Prosthesis or the Rotten Wing Sword insignia. Make your decision based off of what you want for endings, as Millicent's Prosthesis does lock you out of using the needle for resetting the aforementioned Frenzied Flame ending. Coming up on the first talisman, you'll want to grab the Fire Scorpion Charm. This talisman can be located at Fort Lade in Mount Gelmir and provides a double-edged sword for buffs. Providing a 12% fire damage boost in PvE and 8% in PvP, it's amazing to get a kick out of using Flame Grant Me Strength and Tangent. However, do note that it will also increase physical damage taken by 10% in PvE and 15% in PvP, so be cautious on where and when you want to use it. The next 2 talismans are going to be the Ritual duo, starting with the Ritual Sword Talisman. This talisman can be located in Lux Ruins after defeating the mini-boss Demi-Human. This amazing trinket provides a 10% attack power boost, which also applies to the incantations when at full HP, allowing for lead-in shots with Frenzied Burst and initiation with Placidusax's Ruin. The second part to this pair, the Ritual Shield Talisman, can be found at the front door of the Colosseum in Lindell after leaving from the West Capitol Rampart site of Grace. This talisman provides a 30% damage negation buff, which will effectively cancel out the Fire Scorpion Charm, providing an overall 15% damage negation to the first initial hit in PvP, allowing for risk-taking with minimal consequences. The last talisman is going to be Millicent's Prosthesis. This requires you to complete her questline up until you can kill her at the Godskin Apostle in Windmill Village, or completing her questline to the very end. Optionally, you can take the Rotten Wing Sword insignia, allowing you to also reset the Frenzied Flame ending when retrieving Placidusax's Ruin. Millicent's Prosthesis will increase damage based off of tiers in an attack combo, allowing for additional DPS increase alongside buffs and a 5 dexterity boost overall. With everything said and done, let's get the build finalized to melt enemies to mush. Step 1. Organize your incantations in the following order: Golden Vow, Blood Flame Blade, and Flame Grant Me Strength. Doing so in this order will give optimal time consumption on your buffs, allowing for longer combat time without the need to rebuff Flame Grant Me Strength so quickly. The rest of the incantations can be organized however you like. Step 2. Make sure your fists are correctly slotted in main hand 1 and main hand 2 for switching. Step 3. Make sure your potions are at least a 10-4 ratio or optimally a 9-5 ratio for mana consumption. This depends on how often you decide to use Ashes of War and incantations. Overall, here are the following stats for buffing in this build in PvE, not counting multiplicatively. 85 bleed with Spike Fists buffed, 45% physical damage increase when at full, 52% fire damage increase, 30% physical damage reduction when at full, 20% madness damage increase, which is only for the Frenzied Burst, and red eyes and a psychotic hatred towards humans that don't agree with you. With everything said and done, this is the end of the build. I really hope you all appreciated this Homelander home run of a build, as it has been one of my favorite projects yet for how in-depth the build had etched into. Make sure to join the Discord with invite code SeanEasy or clicking the link in the description. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content like this. And as always, thanks and take it easy.